At Dentist Job Connect, we love to do the work of the Lord G.V. Black by bonding dentists together to share in the joy of dentisting, which I describe as full contact arts and crafts on people who do not want to be there or pay for it. To learn more about what we do, you can reach out to us at dentistjobconnect.com or text hire to 215-798-9897. I have a very special guest with me today. I'm thrilled to be talking to him. I've known him since his dental school days. We're going to dig into that. But would you introduce yourself and kind of tell us where you're sitting, what you're doing today? Collin, I like stories that start with today and go backwards. So tell us a little bit about your day today.
I love that. I want to first say that's the best lead in all of dentistry. I love the whole spiel. Incredible. Yeah. And yes, like you said, known each other since my dental school days. My name is Dr. Collin Myrick. I'm a dentist in Northwest Florida. We have a couple of practices. Next week, it'll be a few, but a couple of practices here in the Northwest Florida area, Defuniak Springs and Freeport, very rural, small town communities in the kind of panhandle region, if you are familiar with your Florida geography. And yeah, I've had the pleasure of doing dentistry in the place that I grew up. This is where I was born. Many generations of my family have been here, and we're fortunate that other people have found out about our secret land that happens to be really great in the summer to enjoy the beaches. And as a result, dentistry is in a great need in this area, and we've really enjoyed getting to grow group practices. I specifically love working alongside other doctors. I think some of my favorite days of dentistry, I'll say my least favorite days of dentistry were the years at the very beginning of my career when I practiced solo or in and out with an older doctor who was exiting the practice that I'd acquired. Those were the toughest days. The days that I enjoyed the most are the days like today when I get to work alongside other doctors, and like when I was in dental school and I had an alcove of other dentists who were struggling through the dentistry together and trying to figure out how do we do this and take care of people well. And so that's kind of my philosophy on dentistry.
I love that. A couple of things I want to say then was where you've taught me so much. I hope I've shared some value with you, but you are someone who runs an organization. I mean, how many team members do you have working with you total, including dentist and front desk? What would you say it's at?
76.
76. That's awesome. So I'm a Philadelphia 76ers fan, so I like that. And people know about my failed basketball dreams. Collin, when you grow to this size, you have this speed, you got to get new dreams. But your goal in life is to have people listen to you, understand what you say, and then move that forward. And sometimes that's on our side of the fence where we're not clear. Sometimes it's on someone else's side of the fence. But How to Speak by Patrick Winston is a YouTube video that's been viewed 22 million times. It is a lecture of an MIT professor telling students how to present themselves for jobs. I've watched it start to finish no less than 30 times. It's helped me so much. It will help you. It would help anyone. But he talks about learning is not linear. Learning is not linear. You never know when someone's going to pick up on something that you've said, or, like conversations, they don't start with A, B, C, D, and E. So I'm already going to ask you this question. What inspired you to buy more than one dental practice? When you had one dental practice, and now how many total practices do you have?
We'll say 4. Yeah.
4.
Two that are open, one that opens next week and one that opens in October.
And this is what I ask, whether it's my amazing friend, Dr. Jason Tenori, who I speak with, or Andrew Vallo, or these awesome people who do this. But I say that the easiest case to get accepted in dentistry is the second implant. The first implant you have to do, I have a whole 9 words to millions of dollars, which you've talked about, bone shrinkage, teeth breaking. And the patient has to, there's a lot of thought that goes into saying yes to one implant. But then when the tooth on the other side, fractures or they lose it, and you say, oh, Mrs. Smith, you'd benefit from an implant. Sign me up, no problem, right? In dentistry, the second practice is a big deal, right? Because you own one, and now you have 3 and 4. I wouldn't be surprised if you go to 5 and 6. But take me back to that time where you were like, I own one practice, I want to do more. What was your thought process?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And for me, it really goes back to my why, like what's my purpose in dentistry. And a big part of it is our mission statement to be a community-minded practice for complete dental health, serving the patients that we love. That's our tagline, and our team knows that and understands it. And yet for me, the place that I started dentistry was in a town called Defuniak. And if you're anything like me and you grew up in a rural community, there are rivals. They are schools. just like the Sixers have rivals.
Yeah.
School had a rival, and my dad is a football coach and a teacher, and I grew up in Freeport. That was my home. Very, very small town, 1,800 people when I left for college. Defuniak, a massive metropolis of 13,000 people, that was our rival. And I would have said maybe mortal enemies, with the only bigger enemy being Santa Rosa Beach, South Walton High School. So when our practice in Defuniak started to grow, it was just a result of the right opportunity. That was the place that I associated at first. The doctor there, incredible man, Dr. Gary, who really laid the practice on a red carpet, said, "You're either going to buy it or we're going to shut it down. Like this is it. So good luck." And he set me up for a lot of success. And the main way that he set me up for success was really just teaching me how to be me, to enjoy the things that I enjoyed about dentistry. And it was a really small practice, so there wasn't as much risk. I could do things and say things, and I wasn't afraid that the practice would get smaller or bigger as a result of me doing what I thought was the right thing. And fortunately, we grew a lot. And that practice became a bigger practice. And one day I remember looking up and thinking, all along, I thought my first practice or my only practice would be in my hometown, the place that I grew up, the Bulldogs. Like, I'm going to be a Freeport guy.
Yeah.
This wasn't true. And our mission statement kind of felt really true for our business, but not so true for me as a person. And as a result, I kept looking for, when's the day that we're going to do this? And I actually thought we might move the practice to Freeport. And there's so few offices in this area that even the 25-mile move, I don't think it would have been that painful of a transition for our patients. And fortunately, Defuniak grew to be a really impressive, sizable location with multiple doctors. And I got to learn the ropes of leading associates and caring about a team and taking care of, the little things and caring about core values. And as a result, when an opportunity came available for us to build a practice in my hometown, I was really excited to jump on it. And we built a big one because
I love this. I believe that the future of dentistry, there's challenges facing dentistry, there's celebrations in dentistry, but some of the celebrations are people who are just like you, who are creating opportunities for associate dentists to survive, thrive, and not cry in their own world. I tell people, sometimes people say, "Paul, you're so lucky. You don't have to do clinical dentistry and you run these companies where you just post on your phone." And I say, "Oh, spend a day with me. Spend one day with me and you might think in a different way." And I tell my this joke, and maybe you heard it at DSI, the best way to retain associate dentists is to complain as much as possible about running the practice. And I say that as part joke, part my brother and I show our associates exactly what it's like to run a practice, very transparent about everything that goes on. So one of them may go on and become an owner, and we would celebrate that. And others might say, "Hey, I'm happy inside of this group." And that's something, I'm a different generation than you, Collin, that didn't really exist when I graduated dental school. It was kind of ownership or nothing for all of my friends.
Sure.
And now you see associate dentists making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year working in supportive environments. So I want to compliment you on creating that. My next thing to share is, this is you in 2018. This is us last month. And I'm allowed to embarrass anyone on my own show. Absolutely. So you showed up at this event as a dental student, and I want to share with you, Collin, and I'll call them out. I invite lots of dental students to lots of things, and they don't have the time. They don't have the energy. Even when it's free, they came and complain about the money. And I am just highlighting your JSU, just show up. Do you remember this lecture and showing up at this lecture? And if you were talking to dental students, why should they show up at stuff like this?
100%. And as you pointed out, it wasn't so long ago that I was there. I really enjoyed that lecture, and I even, this, but listeners don't know this. I actually was at another lecture of yours maybe 3 months before that, when you came to our dental school and shared a lot of information with us as dental students. I think that showing up is a key aspect of who we are as people. Are we a person who shows up, or are we not? And there's hard things that'll happen in life. And as you get older, I think you grow to respect the people who find a way to show up. And in this case, it's very different than, I show up because a person needs me. In this case, I showed up because I needed it. I love continuing education. I think as early as dental school, I was participating in CEs like this. But after dental school, I like to joke that I spent more money on CE in the first 4 years after dental school than I spent on the dental school in 4 years. And that's a badge of honor, but also a fear tactic for many that, to develop a clinical skill set that you can be really proud of. It's not cheap and it's not easy, and it requires a lot of showing up. And I like to now think that we can fold time for some of our associates by having really good mentorship opportunities. But you were the first version of that for me, all the way back investing in CE that I think you made free. I don't think that I paid.
I think I did. I found ways to get you guys. I know your awesome friend Victoria's there, and I know you have another friend. I think his name was Chris. I got him next to you on the other
That's
side.
right. And Grant is past him. That's right.
Yeah. So, and I think that, the uncomfortable conversations, or as our, mentor Tenori says, unpacking things a little more. What I don't understand, Collin, and I say this with someone who's lucky to have had a dad as a dentist, lucky to not have had financial challenges, but I didn't have some giant pile of money after dental school to go take CE. I did a multiple year general practice residency. I made $50,000 when my friends were making $150,000. So I invested in my own training. You invested through CE. Right. Why do you think it is that dental students will take out $500,000 for dental school and then just look for free YouTube videos on how to do root canals instead of doing what you did? If you could inspire them, say, whether it's finding the money, taking out a small loan, using some of your income, what would you say to a dental student graduating in 2027, or even this year, 2026, about how valuable CE is early?
Yeah. I'll say first, if you want to be a bread and butter dentist, I think that it is the expectation of school to prepare you to be that when you graduate dental school. Now, we can all agree that that might not always be the case. Unfortunately, not every student leaves dental school ready to do the X's and O's of being a day one dentist. And yet that permission slip that they give you at the end of dental school is not the permission slip to be the most capable dentist that there's ever been. That permission slip is to go and treat your first patient. And now you're going to do a lot of learning on the other side of that. You can start that learning in dental school, and there's opportunities to engage with your specialty clinics and to grow alongside mentors. But you'll find that until you start to work for money to some extent and actually have patients say yes or no in the private practice world, that it's hard to get the experience from a CE course that you'll get when you see the ROI on Monday, when you see how valuable this is in developing this skill set and being able to care for the patients who sit in your chair. So I do think that part of it is you can't know the value until you get there. And I'll also use another tangent. I'm going to get sidetracked here, so help me if I get too far.
Okay.
My baseball coach in high school, he asked us a question, and I'll never forget it. Coach Martin was the man. He had coached in Major League Baseball, and he had coached at LSU, and then he coached at our school. And it was like a retirement job. And he said, "Who do you think are the most coachable players in all of sports?" And I remember him saying, "Do you think it's the little league kids who are trying to learn baseball for the first time? Do you think it's the middle school kids trying to make the high school team, the high school kids trying to go to college, college kids trying to go to the majors, or the majors?" And all of us are guessing all these different options. Like, it couldn't be the stars, no way the pros, because they know it all already. It's probably these college guys trying to get drafted. They're trying to show off. It's probably the high school guys they don't know enough to really know better. So they're going to learn everything. And Coach Martin said, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the most coachable players in all the world are the ones who every statistic leads to a return on investment.
Yeah.
Major league athletes, the NBA players, the NFL players, they are the most coachable players of all because they see how learning just a little, how gaining that 1% can change in their trajectory. I think that's true in dentistry as well.
I love that share. It's amazing. We'll pull that. And I'll just add to this, as someone who's played a lot of golf and I've went to professional golf tournaments, you actually see these, and I believe dentists are like this, you see these professional golfers giving each other putting tips before they go out and play sometimes. And they are desperate for that one little tip. And I find that to be so generous of the other players, but it's like a little, I believe dentists are like this too when you're in the right environment, like the Dental Success Institute, our sponsor, an amazing friend through Mark Costas, where we're constantly looking to give each other tiny little tips. And we're so open-minded. And I couldn't agree with you more in that I'll sit at the Dental Success Institute next to a practice owner who has a $6 million of revenue and multiple people, and they want to learn from anyone sitting there on what do you do? Hey, listen, we're all bonded together by this, Collin. Ready? How do you decrease You know what I do? Stop caring about it. Okay. Stop caring about it because it's impossible. And I joke about that. So the next thing I want to ask is, as we catch up 8 years, you're part of the Dental Success Institute. I'm part of the Dental Success Institute. You are still a young dentist who's investing a significant amount of money and time. What is being part of a coaching group like that done for you as a practice owner, as a professional, as a person? Because I believe there's oh, I don't need coaching, I should figure it out myself, or, oh my gosh, I should know everything myself. And you go to the Dental Success Institute, and to me, it's just an amazing group. But tell us how the impact it's had on you.
Yeah, I think, just the 30-second piece would be, I'd go back to what Coach Martin said. The people who are practicing at the highest level are the ones who are most engaged in coaching, because a little thing can go a long ways in changing their trajectory. And I think the younger you are, the more important that trajectory change is, because you get the longevity of a career.
Right.
Something changes for me that leads to a 10% improvement in who I am, or who our practice is. That 10% is going to multiply out for decades that I continue my career in dentistry. And that's not to say that if you're 50 and you're, looking at the struggles of your practice and wondering, is there hope for me, that you shouldn't do something like coaching. You absolutely should. I'm just saying, for the younger listeners to the podcast today, like, get involved early. Now, for me in particular, I think if you're looking for coaching to give you your purpose, or to give you your vision, or to give you what the future should look like, I think that's a really hard thing. You'll find yourself walking down a path that you don't know where it leads, and you're not sure that you want to get there. If that's the case for you, spend some time in self-reflection. Figure out what the right path is, what you're looking for, who you want to be, what your practice should be like, what your quality of life wants to look like in the future. But once you have a good grasp on what you want, and you can have anything, like I say, dental school was not a prescription. It was a permission slip. You have the freedom to create the practice that you want, or to create the job that you want, the associateship, whatever it happens to be. You can pursue that thing that you're looking for. But once you figured that out, finding great coaches is the way to fold time. You don't have to chew glass for a decade in order to get to that place. Figured out one hard thing after another. You're like, that's not the right option. Now let me try this. That's not the right option. Let me try this third option. Oh, that's better. Okay, perfect. Now let me move on to the next thing. Instead, you can have someone who's walked that path. And again, the best thing would be to find a coach who's created a journey that looks a lot like the place that you want to end up. If you find that, I think you'll find that you can get to the place that you want to be much faster as a result of great.
I absolutely love that. When I on podcast, I'm often asked, and I ask people, what do they wish they did sooner? And for me, it was, I wish I met someone like Mark Costa sooner. I did not pay attention to how insurance worked in my practice, much the way people didn't pay attention to nutrition. I thought I could outproduce insurance, and I would have more money, more time, and I'd be happier if I had started 10 years earlier. But I met the Dental Success Institute in 2018, and you're meeting them earlier. And it doesn't mean you'll be better than I am. It just means that people should learn from this and say, when you ask successful people what they wish they did sooner, listen, I ask this all the time. It's one of the best networking questions I think you can ask, whether you're at a inside or outside of, oh, hey, I see that, you built this business, or, oh, you have a large family, or, oh, what's like something you wish you did sooner? And people's eyes light up, and mine would be, I wish I was part of the DSI sooner. I did not pay attention to how insurance worked in my dental practice. It didn't mean that I will drop them all immediately. It just means I wish I did that sooner. So I love that. Now I want to shift gears a little. I say that if you want to be a multi-practice owner, you have to learn to get along with dentists, right? If you want to be a solo practice owner, you got to get along with your team and patients. But if you want to own 2, 3, 4, 5 dental practices, if you want your practice run without you, you've got to master getting along with your colleagues. And we'll just be honest, Collin, some of our colleagues, not very good at that, okay? Not very good. But you are someone, how many associate dentists do you have right now in your organization?
12.
12. So you have 12 licensed dentists that you are truly bonded together with in a two-way street. They depend on you, you depend on them. Yep. Not to necessarily say Dentist Job Connect is the best, although we love your compliments. If someone was looking to meet associate dentists, how would you recommend they do that? Whether it's online through Job Connect, CE, how did you do it?
Yeah, honestly, I think that's a great question. And it's a really heavy one because early in my journey, and you know this, Paul, early in my practice journey, we were growing so fast, and yet I couldn't find doctors who wanted to be a part of that journey. part of that was my age and the lack of respect and authority that I carried in conversations. And people saw that and said, I don't think that's that's a ride that I want to go on. And then secondly was that I just wasn't very good at the dentisting. I wasn't very good at intermingling amongst dentists. And I also wasn't very good at doing the patient dentist, like the actual dentistry on patients. So anyone with experience really was off put by what we were growing, because they were basically going to come on and be the lead doctor for this other guy. I have since found that problem isn't so much an issue for us anymore. And I think it is exactly what you said. I just learned how to get along with dentists, and I learned what dentists were looking for. And part of that is that they're looking for community. Dentists want to work alongside other dentists, whether that's in a study club that they can share ideas across their single doctor practices, or that's in that alcove environment that we had back in dental school. And now I'm not at all the best doctor in our group, but I can go to a doctor who's a great dentist and say, wouldn't you love to be able to walk back into a shared doctor space and share in the struggles that you're facing?
Yeah.
I placed that implant. I thought it was perfect. And whenever I looked, I'm through the lingual plate on number 30. What have I done? My whole day got way more complicated immediately. Your assistant can never understand that. Your office manager can never feel in the tension. They might have.
I love this. I just want to interject. When I did our satellite practice for a few years on Thursdays as the solo GP. And all I did was fillings and crowns and hygiene checks. And it was the most stressful day of my week because I had to answer all the questions. And I would joke with my office manager. I'd say, oh, like, I don't think you billed this out right for me. And she goes, oh, thanks. And I go, could you come help me with this filling? They go, oh, that's illegal. Right. And I also say this way, we think it's like hygienists hang out with each other. Assistants hang out with each other. Front desk do. The dentist just by yourself. I always talk about the selfie high five. And I believe that contributes to a lot of loneliness. And I love that you can share in those struggles. But now tell us about this. And I say this to help these communities. I've created Dentist Job Connect to be part of the solution for hiring, not the only solution. Go to CE courses. But, you have practices and dentists. How has Dentist Job Connect helped you? Who has it exposed you to? What have you learned through interviewing some of the dentists through Dentist Job Connect?
Yeah, Dentist Job Connect is a genius idea.
Thanks.
I think, to me, Dental Nachos is the genius idea. Creating a safe place for dentists to go and have that community is the first step. Otherwise, you're just any other job board, and I have not found any success through other job boards in dentistry. And yet, Dentist Job Connect, I think we had 85 applicants to our posting. Yeah, I mean, incredible. And we hired 2 doctors and now a third through that group that really we only wanted 1 hire. And yet the quality was so good that we're like, okay, over the next year, we're going to need 3 total doctors. Let's figure out how to say yes to the best 3 that we've interviewed through this process, just because I don't know that we'll get this quality again. Part of that might be a scarcity mindset. I should have just gone back to the Dental Nachos well in the future. And yet I've been so impressed by the caliber of young doctors and old. We had one doctor who applied that we hired who had owned a practice for 20 years, sold it and relocated to our area and found us through Dentist Job Connect. We had another doctor who was a new grad with 10 years of hygiene experience coming fresh out of dental school. Awesome mindset and so ready for mentorship. We've been so impressed by what that's led to. And as a result, I think we're probably going to have a nearly perpetual ad with them.
And I love you sharing that. And it's why I do this. This is my why. I've turned my life into helping dentists more than patients. I still own 2 practices. We're just talking about our numbers with Jeff. I still enjoy that. But it's so fulfilling to me because the associate dentist is one of the most important relationships in a dentist's life, not their practice. Their life, right, Collin? Because
Right.
There's no other team member that affects your life because you're a licensed dentist. I remember being at a big conference. I'll give him credit. It was the one from Lightwave. And he goes, I was down to 2 days a week as a dentist. He's got multiple. He goes, then when my associates moved, I'm back up to 4 days, right? I just want to share, if a front desk team member quits, do you go billing, Collin? Oh, no, you don't, right? Oh, so this is why I tell dentists in the most inspiring but kindly annoying way when they go, oh, I don't need your service. My brother's cousin's sister is graduating from dental school. I'm like, you're putting all of your eggs into your brother's cousin's sister? What if they're not the best one? What if they don't want you? So just tell me, for our audience for a minute, I like this value. How have you learned, or what have you learned in interviewing dentists, right? If you're just like, hey, because we don't talk to other dentists all the time. You got somebody who's an owner talking to a new grad, that's hard. What are maybe just some interview tips you would give someone meeting an associate for the first time?
I think the first step is to create the kind of associateship that you would have
I love
wanted.
that.
As a result, you'll start to attract the kind of candidates that remind you of yourself or an even better version of yourself.
Yeah.
Those are candidates that are really easy to interview. You start to ask them questions that might have been intriguing to you as an associate before you started this journey. And you get to really challenge them, because when you create a position that's worth having, you'll actually want the best person. You won't want the next person.
I love that. That's just, and that, just so I can pause you in there, there's too much of that with dentists. They just want the next. Oh, I already have somebody, right? I said, but is this somebody the one who's going to help you grow? Is this someone give you team? So you want the best, not the next. And then in an inspiring way, like, stuff happens with associates. They move, they do other things. Why not have a bench? I've always talked about this. No one understands how hard it is. We don't have benches in our office. When someone goes, oh, the assistant called out who assists the surgical prosthodontist, that ruins a day. There's no bench. But with associate dentists, you can't open up the practice. So I love that you've said this. You want the best, not the next. And in your process, I'm actually curious, who interviews the associates when they come in? You and the office manager? I'm not, your ops director? Who's meeting them for the first time?
Yeah, we really try to fully immerse them in our practice experience. So our interview process is kind of rigorous. I mean, especially with Dentist Job Connect, because of the volume of applicants that we got. We ran a round one, just like send an email and answer these 5 questions that were in addition to what was on our job. If they didn't respond, perfect. That's not the kind of person that we're looking for. I know I would have responded. If I wanted this job, I would have responded to the 5 questions. Then from there, we set up a Zoom interview, because our area was not local to a large amount of the applicants, and anyone who was local to us, they skipped the Zoom interview and we just brought them into the office. But the Zoom interview became a second level filter, because the final step was that we wanted to invite essentially 3 times the amount of applicants we wanted to hire. We wanted to invite them to actually come to our office. We paid for their travel, had them come to the practice, spend an entire day, because the goal was that they would interview our associates as much as we would interview them.
That's great.
We wanted them to fall in love with the position that they were saying yes to, and then to ask them the hard questions so that they've got to make us fall in love with them. And I found that to be a really successful strategy. We have a 100% yes rate as a result. Anybody we offer the job to, they say yes. That was a big deal to us. And I also think that it helped our team buy in. Our doctors were saying, hey, I'd love to talk to you about Dr. Sam. I really like that. I think that we should hire her. I'm like, whoa. I'm so excited to hear that. More. What did you like about her specifically? What do you think would set her up for success? And then our applicants essentially had an advocate inside the practice. And I really enjoyed that. So to me, that's the answer. Darcy is also a huge cheat code for us, our director of operations. I would say when you say dentists don't have a bench, Darcy introduced me to the idea that you got to have a bench. Almost always.
We're like, everybody's inconsistent and emotional about spending money, right? But like, I talk with Ryan Fulke, and maybe I'm going to talk with you about this. I believe this is a great idea. In my dental practice, we have a roving dental assistant, okay? We've had it since I started, because I realized that I did not want this one weak point. So the roving dental assistant in our world helps with sterilization, helps with filling it, right? But of course, they could come off the bench. So we've had a roving dental assistant. We only have 2 locations, right? I think you should have an actual roving associate dentist. And listen to me for a sec. This is a person that wants to be like you. I was just watching someone on Instagram, Skylar Morton, talking about he wants to replace himself, right?
Yeah.
This is not this is not the entry-level associate position. This roving associate would need to be very mentally flexible. They'd follow someone like you around all the time. And I bet you have 12 associate dentists, right, Collin? I'm going to sell this to you idea right now. Do they take 24 weeks of vacation between them? I bet you they do, right? That's just 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So now you have 6 months with no doctor. So this roving associate, to be able to The benefit to them is they learn from the Collin, they learn from the Skylar, they learn from the top person. The way they pay for this is they fill in on vacation. And the fill-in vacation person's got to be very mentally flexible, right? Because they're not working in their main office, they're not in operatory 2 all the time. But I believe that this is once someone has 3 or 4 practices and they look at the vacation schedule for 2027,
yeah,
you could have easily 30 weeks without a dentist.
You're totally right.
So I'm just saying that this is why this bench building and finding the right person is so key. As we wrap up, and we'll have more of these too, but I want to ask you this question to help. I sit at DSI hot seats and I sit with friends. I understand they talk about my practice is my baby. I can't have anybody work with my baby. It's my baby. I said, first of all, this is a little insulting to your actual real children. But anyway, how do you take care of 4 practices only being in one place? So even if you just bring us down to someone can't find the right implant screwdriver to this lab, you're in one place today. Mm-hmm. What has been some of the ways you've been able to handle that as a practice owner?
That's a great question. I do think that one of the cheat codes for us was Darcy. Bringing her on at the same time as beginning this growth curve was incredibly impactful.
Tell me this, I love this. So Darcy's your operations manager,
yep.
Director.
Yep.
What pain did you have? Everyone has pain before they do anything. Yep. What pain did you have to say we need a Darcy? What was the pain?
I was being ripped in every direction. And it was exactly what you're talking about. When a front office team member isn't available or isn't here on that day, the dentist doesn't step into that gap, but the owner does have to find a way to step into that gap. Yeah. When there's not an assistant or a hygienist has to go home early, that problem has to be solved now. It can't be solved at 5 o'clock. So many of those issues, alongside me being the most productive doctor in the practice at that time, were just ripping me apart. And I found that I couldn't do the dentistry that I wanted to do if I was also going to put out the fires. And then I couldn't put out the fires if I was going to do any dentistry at all. Any dentistry was more than what I could do when I was by myself. So I believe in sharing. I think sharing is really helpful. And I mean that as far as sharing alongside other doctors. I love doctors participating in the upside of our practices. We would love as many partners as dentists want to be a part of our group. Awesome. And yet, I think we've done a good job too of sharing in the challenges of ownership. Yeah. As a result, not everyone.
I love this. And what you shared there about the pain was it's because they need you at the exact same minute. Clinical dentistry, inside and outside the operatory challenges, it's the same minute. You see, what people don't understand running a dental practice, you can't put it off till 7 p.m. at night because otherwise you would. You can't do it at 7 a.m. It's at 1:32 p.m. on a Tuesday. They need me to check a hygiene patient, insert an implant, and figure out why Dentrix is down, as an example. Or not even figure out, or ask me. And that, I think, so now Darcy has created an extension of, it sounds like, high-level problem solving.
Right. And maybe even better than I am. Like she could do those things better than I could. And she's a systems oriented person, an implementer, an integrator, the kind of person who hears the idea, but figures out how to actually make it happen. So as a result, not only does she solve the problems, she also leads to less problems in the future. I was solving the problem, but not figuring out a long-term solution.
Right. Yeah. The Band-Aid, but it's honestly, like, we were at the pool the other day and one of the other girls cut her foot, and they put a Band-Aid serve a purpose, right? So it's not like people say don't Band-Aid a problem. We couldn't let the girl's foot bleed, but it's not a long-term solution to challenges. So, Collin, you've shared so much. I just want to ask you, if someone was to want to learn more about your journey or follow one of your practices on Instagram or see your website, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Sure. I'm crazy enough to share my contact.
Awesome.
My number is 850-428-0901. That's my personal cell. You can text me anytime. I'm so happy to touch base with anyone. Also, my email address might be the easiest. It's collinmyrickdds@gmail.com. 2 L's and then MYRICK. And I'd be happy to share anything that anyone's interested alongside the journey. There's been so many people like yourself, Paul, who've done that for me. And I think from day one, I had your cell phone number, and you've been great at staying in touch. So it means a ton. And I love that I get to see you at all the DSI events. And I wish I was up north a little more often. Yeah, well, we'll have to hang out more in person for high-fiving. But thanks so much for sharing. We'll do more of these. Stick around for a minute, but that ends our show. Thanks so much, guys. Paul.